So I want to welcome everyone to a very special edition of The Build Up. I'm your host, Ryan Benson, and with me is John Riddle, the owner of Turning Leaf Custom Homes. We're joined today by the top voice in our industry. It is I'll let John give the intro to that, but very special guest today.
Yeah, Ryan. Today we have with us Buddy Hughes. He's the 2025 chairman of the National Association of Home Builders. He's with us today. He's going to be here at the SCBC with us. And this is really a big moment for us Florida builders. A little background on Buddy. He's a third generation builder, a champion for resilient construction like ICFs, which is close to my heart, and a powerful advocate for housing affordability and regulatory reform.
That's right. So whether you're building, advocating, just trying to understand where the industry is heading, this episode is one for you. So, John, let's get into it.
Let's go. Ryan, lead us off. Buddy, welcome to our podcast, The Build Up.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Great.
So you're a third generation builder from North Carolina. Tell us about growing up in the industry.
Many years, summers. Generally, it was the rule back then at around age 12 or 13. It was time to start going to work.
That started earning your keep around the house then. That was the deal.
Yeah.
Different than the current generations.
Yes, very much.
So 1984, you started Hughes Construction.
Correct.
Was that by yourself or with your uncle then?
By myself.
Okay. And specializing in residential, light commercial. And how did you start off? What prompted? Just get your license and grab a hammer, or how'd you get going in it?
Taking any opportunity we could, whatever we could, but that's back when builders built. And so we did framing projects, painting, build a spec house every now and then, just whatever came along. At that time in that area, we were carpenters or we were painters, and whatever opportunity came along. And then we split, just went our separate ways for whatever reason. We didn't have a falling out or anything. We just had different directions we wanted to go. I say the rest is history. I did mostly customs and had two divisions, actually. One did custom homes most of the time, and we had another division did multifamily. I had some good friends that were investing for their retirement. They would build a piece of property and say built mostly duplexes. Said, fill it up, get them rented, and let us know.
And back then, were you building it all in-house? Was it a team of carpenters, or at this point had the industry evolved into the subcontracting format?
It had not evolved to that for us.
Okay.
So we basically did everything we could ourselves. Did our own framing. We didn't do masonry at the time. Framing, finishing, roofing, painting. Like I said, the things we could. Didn't do any of the licensed mechanicals, but had plenty of subs at that time. But like I say, we just pretty much did everything we could.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've read about, you said you didn't do masonry, but I read you were kind of an early pioneer with a product that's really important to us, how we build here, and especially for resilient construction, but ICF, insulated concrete forms. How did you
Yes.
get involved in that?
Oh, just out of the need for, I live in Lexington, North Carolina, Piedmont area of North Carolina, which is primarily a basement area. And all of the custom homes that we built needed basements. And this was mid-90s. I did my first ICF in 1996, just because that's when it was getting harder to get masons or get them in a timely manner, or to get the ones I wanted. I was a little too particular about masons, I guess. But and I saw the product at the International Builders Show in Dallas, I think, 93 or 4, somewhere along in there. I thought, I believe that's something we can do, because we did all we could ourselves. Came home telling my crew about it, and I had a foreman, a concrete specialist, or he'd been in the flat work concrete business, and we did our own flat work, and showing him, and he had done just enough vertical concrete to know that we didn't want anything to do with it. He said, you can't form concrete with styrofoam. So let it go at that time. Then the next year I took him with me back to the show. And I said, now you look at these things. Came home with a little different frame of mind. Went to a training class and tried one. And my local HBA at the time was getting ready to do a habitat. And I said, it was a crawl space. I said, I'll donate the foundation. Well, it went too easy. And while we were working on it, A lady stopped, saw the forms in the yard and said, "You do this," and asked if we'd come to Greensboro and put a basement in. We did that. It was too easy. And
Mhm.
so from that time on, when I was talking with prospective homeowners or home buyers, I said, "This is what we do for basements," and that's all we intended to do at the time. I just didn't give them any option. So I said, "This is what we do. This is why it's going to cost you a little more." And everything went well for about a year and a half. We put in a few basements, and I had a homeowner said, "Why would I want to go all the way up with this?" And I said, "Because it costs too much." And this was on the tee box at North State Golf Course. So he said, "No, I'm serious. Why don't I want to do my whole house?" He said, "I've done a lot of research on this." And he said, "My wife has insisted that the outside cladding be stone and stucco." And he said, "I'm not liking what I'm reading about putting stucco on a stud stick frame wall." And I said, "Oh, you'd be a nut." He said, "Well, then why don't I want to go all the way up?" And I said, "Because it costs too much." He said, "I don't want to talk about that anymore." So, he said, "Do it. Go all the way up with it." And since then, we've been involved with several whole house constructions, probably more so than just basements. I've helped a lot of homeowners that actually did their own, stacked their forms, and then hired experienced or pump operations to place the concrete. So it is somewhat of a do-it-yourself product, but I warn people too, it's still vertical concrete construction.
Concrete has its mind of its own,
Yes,
and
it
it's going to
does.
go wherever it wants. With your national position now with NAHB, and you're traveling all over the country, and sticking with the ICF conversation for one more, what's your take on how that industry has
I talk with a lot of builders, just like our conversation started. I noticed in your bio you ICF, some people are interested in it. So I naturally get in conversations, and there's no question it's not a coming product. It's here. It's not going to take over the industry like some may have thought, because it still costs considerably more compared to stick frame construction. Now, truthfully, below grade, as you probably know, well, I don't know, maybe you don't here in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you generally call those swimming pools, but below grade for basement applications like I do most of, especially in Western North Carolina, it's a no-brainer. The cost is close enough to a wash that there's no reason not to do it, especially, and I've trained so many general contractors to do exactly what I did, be able to do their own basement, not have to wait on masons. And the system has adapted the best over the years, I think, with framers, and the least with masons, believe it or not. They just struggle with it, I think, because of the fact there's not a mortar joint there. That framers are used to having to start off straight, level, and plumb to end up straight, level, and plumb, and they just adapted very well to it. So I've trained a lot of builders in basement areas to be able to do their own basements, particularly for log homes, timber frame, anything that they need a basement. And mason crews and pour wall crews are just getting harder to find. There's no question. It's a natural in some applications, and I've unfortunately had to tell a lot of folks or meet with folks that desperately wanted it and simply didn't have the extra budget for it.
Got it.
With resiliency needs increasing like they are right now, you are going to see more of it, because it is definitely a resilient product. And the beauty of is with the energy efficiency, that energy efficiency will pay for that extra resiliency if you have it on the front end.
So tell us about your climb through your local at Davidson County HBA, and then the North Carolina HBA, eventually, service on NAHB, and now chair. I mean, tell us about that. Tell us about that journey from 93 through today.
Intention to end up where we are. And it was just to appease one of my suppliers, Cement Block, as a matter of fact. Every time I'd go to the block plant, I knew that June was going to hit me up, because she was very, very active there local.
She wanted that spike. That's what it was.
That's exactly right. She wanted that point, but she said, "Buddy, you need to be a part of this." And she knew my uncle, and she knew my grandfather, and she said, "Y'all got too much going on here not to be a part." I said, I'm going to. I wasn't able to come last time. And I said, "When's your next meeting?" She said, "Tonight."
Perfect.
I couldn't get out of it. I joined, and truthfully, I was a little blown away when I saw all that's going on. And I said, I knew I needed to be a part of this. So I got active. Then in 1998, I think I was local president. At that time, we offered some travel assistance to anybody that wanted to go to state meetings
Okay.
or national meetings. And so I said, "You want to go to a state meeting?" I said, "Sure." And again, just so impressed by the fact that we could go in and sit down and talk with a senator or a representative that, everybody thinks is, untouchable. So then the next step, of course, was a national meeting. And I have to confess, at that age, I had never been to Washington, D.C.
All right.
So I really was impressed.
Had you been to the IBS though?
Yes.
You had,
Yeah.
just never to the meeting portion of anything.
I just went for the show.
Yeah.
And I was blown away there in one place, and that's what I went for. And
Yeah.
back then it was a 4-day show, but I would have a list of every vendor that I needed to talk with, anything I was having a problem with, or anything that I wanted to start using, didn't have in my area. It was just such a outstanding opportunity to visit with the people that served the industry.
Sure.
And then, gosh, I don't know, at the turn of the century, I guess, when I just continued to participate at the national level. And NHB has so much available on committees and councils and ways that people that like to give back can give back. And everybody has a special interest, or everybody has something like we did. I joined the Building Systems Council because that's where my folks were.
Sure.
And one thing led to another. Still never intended to go this far. But my wife and I were talking about it one night, and she said, "Why don't you do that?" Well, and I knew. She said, "Why don't you do that?" And I said, "Because I knew you'd leave me." And she said, "No, it sounds like it would be interesting and it'd be a lot of fun." If she only knew how much we were going to get to travel.
Right.
She doesn't travel with me all the time, but she enjoys it.
Are you still involved day to day with your company, or doesn't happen because your responsibilities with NAHB?
All of that.
Yep.
Training, consulting. I've got a takeoff to do when I'm through here with a homeowner that wants to do his own job. So I do that, and I've diversified over the years too. I have mini storage, self-storage units, so that keeps me pretty busy when I'm home. Just don't spend much time at home now.
Yeah, how many days on the road? I mean, it's every day. There's something, but how much away from home?
Home a week.
How'd that work out?
I'm there talking with them, and boy, let me tell you, if you think you got troubles here, if you think doing business is difficult here, you just wouldn't believe what they're up against in California.
The regulatory environment, you mean? Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Impact fees. I visited yesterday when I got here with the local presidents meeting.
Yes.
And they were going around the room talking about things going on in their area. I heard that phrase, impact fees, 6 or 8 times. And I said, "Guys, I can sympathize with you, but you just won't believe what's happening on the West Coast. It's unbelievable." And in fact, at one point, when listening to the things they said, I had to ask, "And you still want to live here?" And they said, "Well, just wait till you see the weather this afternoon."
Always hanging on the weather. That's their main. It's like the weather's great, but still, there's a certain point where how many states have you got to visit with NAHB? Like how many say state associations have you had the opportunity to connect with?
Yeah.
Wow.
Text me and reminded me that I needed to come up here. So I'm going to Alaska in a few weeks, middle of August. North Dakota in November, I think.
You couldn't have picked summer months for North Dakota.
Well, I tried.
Yeah, you're in Florida during the summer, and let's hit the fall, North Dakota. Back to the best laid plans of week on, week off. Just don't happen.
That's it. Yeah. You can't plan it. You just pretty much have to wait for invitations
Sure.
and stuff and go. And we operate as a team, 5 senior officers, 3 behind me, myself, and then a past chair. And the country's broken up into 5 areas. So we're the resource for 5 different areas.
Okay.
But still, if something comes up, I get an invitation, and regularly they're calling saying, "Can you come install our officers," whatever. But if you already have something booked, then we circulate it. And if someone's closer or available, we try to get an officer there any way possible.
Sure. You want to talk about some policy and
I
regulatory, or
was just going to move into that position that you have as chair. What is your thoughts about trying to reduce the burdensome regulatory issues that impact all of us builders?
Well, each officer going into each chair, as you become chair, everybody has an initiative or a hot button, something that's driving them that they want to accomplish during their year. So you get that question a lot. What's your thing? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? Some have chosen membership to try to do everything they can to boost our membership. My thing all along has been regulation, over regulation, right?
Yep.
And particularly with our codes, because as much as I'm an advocate for energy efficiency, super insulated envelopes, I know it can't be regulated. It has to be choice. And I've just watched our codes get farther and farther out of line, particularly related to energy codes. And again, it's wonderful for people to want to spend a little extra, more insulation, better windows and doors, whatever.
Sure.
That's wonderful if you can make it work, make it fit the budget, but regulating it is
Let's
not.
make it a choice. What drove it? Is it the manufacturers wanting to make sure that their more expensive product had to be used, and let's push that into a energy code? What drove it moving away from true capitalism, supply demand, into certain things being pushed?
Just too climate concerned, I think. I don't know exactly how to put it. Not a wordsmith. I've said they there was just too much focus on climate, not necessarily climate change, but doing whatever we could do to affect climate change.
Sure.
It's just a government push, and for the last 4 years, we've been pretty helpless at NAHB as far as what we could affect to do with the energy codes. We don't argue at all, or we debate, but we're not arguing about 85% of the code, which is related to health and safety,
Sure.
engineering,
Which is what it should be. The
Exactly.
code should be a health and safety matter.
That's how
Yep.
it started.
Yep.
That's how it started. And the first code book that I had in 1984 was about that thick.
Yep.
50 pages, and took care of health and safety. And now we know what it looks like.
Don't think we could fit it in the frame. It couldn't fit between John and I. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But for the last 4 years, the code just went a little too far with energy codes. And I saw that, even though, again, I'm an advocate of energy efficient products, but they just went too far. And so we're trying now that we've had a major shift, a major change in government, in the federal government, and the offices that we found it very difficult to get before administrators or secretaries, these regulatory bodies. And even if we got there, it was obvious we weren't going to make any progress.
Sure.
Now we're being invited. Now we're getting calls to meet with the new administrator. I've testified before Congress 3 times so far. We've met with Lee Zeldin, the new administrator of EPA.
How is testifying before Congress? Intimidating, or what's the?
Not really.
No.
I'm not too easily intimidated, but it was very interesting, and it was a learning experience.
Sure.
There's no question. But you're invited as an expert into a committee meeting.
Sure.
To answer questions. But the truth of the matter is you're there so that the committee members can make a statement.
They can grandstand, right? They want their clips. They're yelling at you for yeah. Anyone yell at you?
Haven't been there yet. We've been friends. See, the party in power at the time gets to appoint the chairs. So every chair of every committee that I've testified to has been a friendly, it's been a friendly environment.
And they get to control the format of the committee too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that matters a lot.
And they're wanting to make a statement.
Sure.
When a question starts off with, Mr. Hughes, don't you think, and I actually had one Congress lady or Congresswoman who, and in this environment, when we do an oral testimony, we have 5 minutes. hard stop. You got a microphone with a green light, a yellow light, and a red light, and they're serious about it. But the good news is all of the members have the same rules. Minutes, hard stop, and they will stop them. But I had a congresswoman use all of her 5 minutes asking asking the statement.
Yeah, right.
So I never had to answer anything, and the chair had to say, "You have used all your time."
That's funny.
And then she got up and left.
That's funny.
So this year from the state of Florida, we had 50 or more. I think it was
Yeah.
a record crowd.
It was a record crowd.
Legislative conference.
Yes.
Kind of talk
Yeah.
about
As easy as it gets sometimes to think that you don't make a difference, you have to know these congressmen love to see you come. They want to know what's on our minds. As you would guess, there are some that welcome us in, and there are some that we don't bother because we know it's not going to be a good experience. They're not going to help us and not a good use for our time or PAC funds. So I wouldn't say we're selective. We would go anywhere that we were invited. But again, we know we're going to do some good and where we're not. And for the last year, my job has been advocacy, or as first vice chair. Your only job is advocacy. So I spent that year on Capitol Hill, and so far a lot this year. Got to book a flight next week back. I'm fortunate that I'm close and I can get there pretty quick. But they love to see us coming, and we get a lot of invitations. We're getting invited places that for several years we just couldn't get in the door, and it makes a huge difference.
and the importance of doing that and
Yes,
how that helps us make more friends, let's say, with our legislative body.
absolutely.
How's change affected from a policy standpoint, like the building codes? I don't think a lot of people understand. There's certain things that need to happen at the congressional level. And then there's things that can happen by meeting with the administrators and the secretaries and whatnot. How much change can be affected without Congress? Because Congress is still slow to get things through, and a lot of things get added on and off bills. What can be done at that next level down now that there's cooperation with the administration?
Well, you mentioned codes in that question. Truthfully, we're pretty limited on what we can do federally to affect codes because it is a state by state.
Sure.
One of the things that I have planned and want to accomplish this year is educating each individual states on what they can do. Unfortunately, too many states either are unaware, and when I say state, not necessarily, well, I will say state governments and the building industry and homeowners simply think that they have to take what's out there, and which is the IRC, the International Residential Code. What individual states don't realize is they can make all the amendments that they want. A lot of people, a lot of areas are complaining, a lot of states are complaining about a 3-year cycle. The fact that we can't get inspectors trained on the new code, and it's time to develop another code or adopt another code. So they think we're locked into that 3-year cycle, but we're not. A state North Carolina, we've gone to a 6-year cycle. And other states, some states do a great job and are going to be fine. The state of Florida does great. And you have resources. You have people to do it. North Carolina will be fine. Texas, Pennsylvania, state of Washington, where they do have resources. They have the money to spend to fight these things. They're going to be fine. What I worry about are the smaller states that don't have those and think they have to take what's handed them. That's simply not the case. Now, as far as what we can do federally, over the past few years, we had some regulations imposed on us, some rules and regulations related to energy efficiency. For instance, HUD decided to require any USDA and VA loans. If you wanted to write or get those loans, you had to subscribe or you had to adopt the IECC 21. ECC is the International Energy and Energy Conservation Code. It's
Got it.
basically energy. And that's the one where everyone felt like we went too far. The average nationwide that the IECC 21 added to the price of a median home was $30 to $35. It was just too much to bite off at one.
Sure.
And for HUD to require that, and particularly for two of the lower income level, it just put hundreds of thousands of people out of the market. Average across the country is every time you add $1,000 to the price of the house, eliminate or you knock over 100,000 people out of the market.
I mean, pick up on that. And we're talking about nationwide affordable crises for it. And my other role, I serve on the board of directors for the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, which is the Affordable and Workforce Housing Board for the state of Florida. And just what we're facing here in Florida is let's get another, few 100,000 units, closer to 1 million units in the ground to reach equilibrium on a national scale. And we're one of the states that is more proactive with our policies on affordable and workforce housing, but we just had such an inflow of people that it's tough to keep up with. But when you say, if you add $1,000 to a house, and then you work that down to what the monthly payment is and how many people are then bumped out of qualification for a loan.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's the trade-off? And looking at it, what you were saying was interesting for these energy codes being implemented. And I relate it to I always go back to a value proposition. And it sounds like what we've been doing is, if we were achieving a 1, but we can achieve a 1.2 for twice the cost is what we were doing. Instead of for 1.1 the cost, we can achieve 1.2. Well, now we're talking a metric that works. So it's undoing bad value propositions. Is that what you're spending? Is a lot of the focus now in this year unwinding some of those policies? And then my second part to that question is it done by policy or is it done by legislatively? So how are you able to just unwind it by an opinion of a secretary or administrator, or do we have to have Congress unwind these, or both?
Or both.
Okay.
And actually for Congress to have to intervene and do it is generally the last.
Sure.
The extreme. More times than not, it can be done at the regulatory level.
Yeah.
And more times than not, it can be dealt with at the state level. Some things even at the local level. I think I mentioned impact fees a while ago. That's unbelievable what an effect that has, and that happens at the local level. City councils and county commissioners to impose these unbelievable. There was one county that we visited with the Bay Area BIA last week, and one county, they cover 9 counties, and one of those counties mentioned that they were paying $115,000. Well, let me talk about $115 per square foot. So the example,
Wow.
Yeah, the example was 1,000 square foot house. It's $115,000.
I remember we were building houses for that.
And this is California you're talking
That's
about.
California. Every area, now we're fortunate in North Carolina, we basically outlawed impact fees back in the 80s.
Fantastic.
So unless they had 2 jurisdictions that had them then and their grandfather.
Yeah.
So you can't do impact fees, but they get so creative.
Yeah, what are their workarounds? What do they do it as? Mobility fees? I mean, like pick a name. Yeah.
Inadequate public facilities fee.
Oh.
So if you wanted to put a subdivision in an area, if it didn't have sufficient school capacity, you basically had to make a donation.
Got it.
I know of another
That would be
city.
an impact fee.
Exactly. There's a city in western North Carolina. Again, I won't call any names, but they charge water rights. Friend that was planning 14 apartments, and his water rights going to be $300,000. That's an impact fee.
Yep.
So that has to be fought at the local level. And unfortunately, people around the country are finding out that they may be the least effective, or they have less power there, especially if they've gotten these bad local governments in place. Then you got to work at changing that. we've had a lot of issues over the years in North Carolina with people, and I know you have had this here because you generally get people migrating from the Northeast before we do. But then we get them when they make it halfway back.
And we've already thrown them out at that point. We've scared them away, so you're getting the worst of the worst. Yeah, sorry.
The same message down here too. If you're coming from Northeast, leave those politics there. Come down and enjoy Florida.
But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And you get mayor for a while and I'll say the city of Cary, just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, who ran on the basis of stopping growth.
Wow.
It was an anti-growth, and he was elected, and they had to deal with him till they could get him out. But once he was in office, it was you got to deal with it for
Sure.
a while. So that's so many things that have to be dealt with local. And that's something else that your state association or the national association can help when small local groups feel helpless. There's lots of things that we can do to help, particularly get bad legislators in. NHB offers a candidate school. If you have a great, and this happens a lot, where you have a great individual that would make a great mayor or councilman, whatever, simply doesn't know how to run a campaign. NHB will come.
We hosted it here on Wednesday morning. We had Carl come in and give a half-day campaign school. It was fantastic. Went to it and learned a lot, and it was a good crowd, and I think it's a great way for people to get involved at the local level. I mean, that's where all this is happening.
A large part of it.
Yeah.
No question. And then there's always state issues, and that's where the most good can be done with codes.
Yeah.
State government or a state body. In North Carolina, for a long time, our code was regulated or administered by the Department of Insurance.
Okay.
Then we've changed that. So you have to find out where the decisions are made, where things are handled.
We have a building codes commission here, so it just happens to fall under a different department.
Right.
It falls under professional regulation instead of under insurance in Florida. Yeah.
And the chairman will be here tomorrow.
Yes.
Our meetings. Yeah.
So there's tons that we can do, and particularly with regulation, there's probably more that can be done and accomplished at the state level. And the same the opportunities or things available through NHB.
Sure.
If a state has particular issues and needs help, all you got to do is ask. And there's probably a Carl that will come and address that issue, and our lobbying team that we have.
They are first class. Had the pleasure of interacting with them several times. I mean, the way that NAHB does it. And I'll say, too, the way that NAHB came in after disaster. I was there for Hurricane Ian, and a team on the ground in no time figuring out with plan in place. Like, you guys have been there, done this, you know how to handle it, and let's come in, let's work with all the building officials locally, like handle that side of the operation, and yeah, it's really, really first class.
Yeah, Jonathan Falk.
Yeah, Jonathan came down. I had lunch with him probably 3 days after the storm to go over, all right, what do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? And he already had a plan in place.
So that's out there.
Yeah.
That's available. And then I guess at the top level, where there are issues that have to be dealt with legislatively, and then that's where the team really shines.
Yeah.
And knows which office to go. If there has to be a bill, they know, or a resolution or whatever it is, they've got the experience to know. Everybody has a different level of expertise or a different area. We have a tax expert, we have a regulatory expert, and so and they know where to go, and they know where to start the process, and they know where they need to send us when we come up and say, what can we do? Who do we need to go see? They know where to send us. So there's something at every level, battles that we have to fight at every level, but there's help available through NHB, the state association, and locals. Truthfully, if there's a weakness, generally it comes down to the locals, but that's, there's so much help available.
And that's more about resources too. Would you agree on the
Absolutely.
local? And I think that's something our listeners need to understand as you become a member of your local HBA chapter. That's multifunctional. Now you're a
Yes.
member of your state level.
Yep.
And most importantly, what you're addressing is you're not only a member of the National Association of Home Builders, but you're afforded the resources
Yes.
that our team offers up there, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And all you got to do is ask. I'm serious. And of course, we've got a new CEO, been on the job for 2 years now. He is so open and receptive. There's just no barriers when you need help, and we need help all over the country right now.
Yeah.
We've used the word affordable a lot, and it simply doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
More folks use the word attainable.
We're switching over to attainable as a state too. Attainable housing. It groups workforce. It groups affordable. Because affordable is very outdated, and also has connotations with it that are
Sure.
completely inaccurate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The term you've used a lot, that we all use a lot more, is workforce housing.
Yeah.
That probably is the greatest need, and I've talked about that a lot with attainability or affordability, and what group needs the help the most. I'm not worried about a lot of the clientele we have with nice big custom ICF homes. They're going to be fine, and I'm not worried about the very bottom level that struggling to afford anything. Government's going to take care of that, but that middle slice, and most of which are workforce, with firemen, with our trades, policemen, teachers, that's the group that we're the most worried
I mean, we're talking about too, like price point of people who make between 60 and 100 and something $1,000 is a gap that's not covered by housing that's attainable at the moment. That's what we got to fix. The way to do that, back to what you've said, we have to make a code that is efficient to allow for it and not sacrifice people's ability to be able to buy homes for an incremental value proposition of energy that doesn't make sense.
Return on investment.
Yeah, that's right. Let's strip that down. Let's make everything more attainable for everyone. Get more units in the ground. Get more people in homes. Capitalism, supply and demand will reach equilibrium, and everyone has a chance.
I mean, touched on yet that's getting to be a crisis in a lot of areas, particularly in the Southeast, is homeowners insurance. It has gotten so out of reach, and we have had times, and we've been working on this, trying to figure out a way. We had a task force just to address affordable homeowners insurance, because even if and we had some builders that were struggling because they built to a price point that the individual that was buying, it was mostly workforce housing, could afford the payment, but couldn't afford the insurance. So they couldn't sell. They had houses that they weren't able to sell because their clientele couldn't afford the insurance.
Sure.
That's a crisis. That's a crisis. There's no doubt about it. And of course, dealing with the insurance industry that's a whole nother can of worms. But I've been involved with the insurance industry too. I understand it's pretty basic math. You have to take in enough to pay the claims. Honestly, as builders, we have to take part of the blame for that, because what a homeowner has to carry is replacement cost. If there's a mortgage, the bank requires replacement coverage, and the cost of that replacement over the past 10 years has doubled.
That's right.
And it's not slowing down. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to get a handle on those increases.
Do you see any meaningful effort on the federal level to try to do that, or is that still going to fall upon the states?
Unfortunately, the insurance industry almost exclusively is handled state by state. And again, it's pretty simple business math. And we've had some issues, or there have been a lot of issues, particularly on the West Coast, where insurance companies have said, hey, we're going broke.
Yeah. We know that in
Years.
Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida, they don't want to write policies sometimes because the risk isn't, commensurate to what they can reasonably charge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I sit on the board at the Builders Mutual Insurance, so I know the insurance industry somewhat. We write construction insurance, but it's still that insurance math. There's been a joke for years. We'll take any risk. as long as we get enough premium. That's
right.
the issue.
Yeah.
You have to keep that premium in range, or
Sure.
so where you can handle it. Another didn't mean to get off on.
Any other policy matters that I know there's hundreds that we're dealing with at the federal level, and you guys working at that and down to the state level? Any other policy matters our listeners should be aware of that we're working on? Sounds like the main focus right now is let's do some unwinding, address these code issues, and make things more practical. But I'm wondering, with the tariffs and the other stuff from a labor standpoint, anything else? We touched on insurance, which was on our list to talk about. What else do we need to know?
And will be handled on a federal level as Waters of the U.S. And meeting with Lee Zeldin, he's assured us that there's going to be some help, going to be some relief there. And other than that, federally, like I say, so much of it comes back to the states, but also that we talked with EPA, or the permitting process. And there's so much redundancy in that. That's one of the complaints we have in North Carolina. We are regulated at the wazoo in North Carolina to keep water clean. And then it's almost redundant to go through the same permitting process federally. So, he's promised some relief there also. But other than that, so much of it is state by state.
Yeah, I think we share the same thing with water here. Exact same thing. We're dealing with it too. Our state level lobbyists are constantly addressing it, working with NAHB to help our builders make more progression on this, so we can get more homes in the ground. Work with that. All right, so I'm gonna kind of move forward here. Let's talk about your leadership of NAHB, and you are. When does your term end? When is you?
Their 20th summit. IBS,
At IBS,
will
okay.
install Bill Owens as our chairman, and I'll become past chair.
So sum up your leadership in 6 words. Just give us a quick little snippet about how you feel your leadership is and will be to the end of your term, or what you've already done.
Personally,
Well,
I guess I've kind of taken this code issue or regulatory issue to heart. Feel like that's kind of been my specialty. There are a lot of areas that I don't have expertise, and we hand those off to those that can't.
Okay.
I've seemed to have found my niche with regulation, and the fact that I'm not bashful to bring it to folks' attention, and I hope to continue that. I hope that the folks that we feel like that have taken these regulations too far don't think they can wait me out. There's a lot I can do just on a volunteer basis. I don't have to have an office. I don't have to be an officer. I can continue to do what I can to bring it to the right group's attention that we've got to get things reined in a little bit.
So February 20th, what's the next chapter? What are you going to do after this is done? Awesome.
And one of them asked me the other day when the word generation came up, and I said, Zeke, I'm a third generation builder. And said, what does that mean? I said, my grandfather started, and my uncle, and and he said he's 10 years old. And he said, does that mean if I decide to be a builder, I can be the 4th generation? I said, yes, sir. Sure
That's
can.
great.
So hopefully, and can't force that either. If the interest is not there, it's not there. But I'm hoping to expose them. I'm gonna do a little more building, crank things back up a little bit. And I've got a neighbor that just graduated from Appalachian State with a construction management degree, and he's working for a commercial general contractor now. But he wants to learn to build houses. Mostly wants to own his own business.
Great.
And I said, I've been working him like a borrowed mule for the last 3 or 4 years anyway. I said, now it's time to start evolving. So that's, may do a little more farming. I've pretty much had to give up.
Farm?
Ryan has a farm.
I do.
I'll tell you
I do
about
have
it.
an egg farm. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He specializes in feeding Florida Panthers.
Yeah, that's apparently that's my issue at the moment. But yeah, we're working through that.
Chickens. I've gotten into the egg business.
Yeah.
I was meeting with a month ago. I was in Santa Fe meeting with the Western Governors Association, a unique group. It's the governors in the western half, as it would specific in fur. And the unique thing about it is they're pretty evenly split with parties, but they get along. We can't do that on this side of the country. Same thing.
Yeah.
Can't work. Carl was out there, and he set me up with that, and I said, "Why don't we do this the southeast or the east?"
Yeah.
Get along.
Doesn't work.
But the interesting thing about all that, I met the governor of New Mexico.
Okay.
Very interesting character, and she has 30 chickens
Okay.
at the governor's mansion.
All right. Oh, at the mansion. That's very cool.
Yeah, and
Oh, nice.
Goats and about
Oh, wow.
6 or 8 rabbits. It's amazing how many people have got into the chicken business.
Yeah, we're substantially larger than that now,
Yeah,
but it started off with just a few. Yeah, that's good.
That's interesting. Well, I was in the beef business. I
Okay.
kept about 30 brood cows and a couple of horses and stuff, but you can't. There's a couple things you can't have in travel.
Yeah,
that's
right.
rental property and livestock.
Yep. Which state? I'm curious. Which state has the best food? You got to travel to 47. Actually, I'll group all of them because you've been out to Hawaii now too. Apparently, which state has the best food, or what's the best meal you had while traveling? Is there one that stands out, or no?
It's a special treat when I get short ribs every now and then. And I actually had a great meal at. Well, I'd hate to put it on one state. We're fond of barbecue in North Carolina.
Sure.
That's kind of a hobby. They do a little barbecue catering from time to time. So I'm really fond.
Beef, right, in North Carolina, or is
No,
it
we do
pork?
pork.
It's pork, right? But you're a beef farmer, but you do the pork for
Yeah.
barbecue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather sell the cows. They're
Yeah.
too valuable.
Sell the cows, then buy the pork and barbecue the pork.
Seafood.
Yeah.
Second to none.
Yeah. Great.
But Texas is hard to beat.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to
For beef barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
be hard to put it on one state.
What's your sauce in North Carolina? What do you do it with? Is it the mustard base or vinegar base or what?
No, the mustard base is South Carolina.
Okay.
50-50 ketchup and vinegar.
Okay.
The eastern part of the state, and I live in Lexington.
Yeah.
Lexington is famous for pulled pork barbecue.
Yeah.
So you have Eastern style and Lexington style. Now,
Okay.
Eastern style is almost all vinegar and spices, of course. And in Lexington, it's about half and half ketchup.
Okay. Great. Cool.
Yeah, we're serious about our eating.
That's good.
Obvious.
Look at me. That's why I'm asking about where to go to eat. Yeah. That's great.
I tell you what, we had
Great.
It's good as I.
Good.
It was very good.
Well, buddy, we can't thank you enough for coming. It's been a true pleasure, and we really appreciate what you're doing for us nationally and serving. And I know as president of FHBA how much the job pays. So that wonderful $0 paycheck you get for doing it. But we really want to thank you for joining us. And to our listeners, subscribe online. Make sure you join us. We've got a bunch of great interviews coming up with us. So thank you for joining the Build Up.
Thank you too again for the invitation.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Candace, you good?